But first of all, let's talk about another big story that developed over Christmas, because Donald Trump has unleashed a missile Christmas present to jihadi Islamists in Nigeria. All over Christmas, the holiest day in the Christian calendar, radical Islamists linked to ISIS launched a brutal attack across northwest Nigeria, targeting innocent Christians with savage violence. Villages were burned, families slaughtered, and churches were desecrated in a wave of jihadist terror that has plagued the region for years.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed.
Well, the Nigerian government, despite multiple promises, has failed time and again to protect its Christian citizens from this relentless onslaught by these jihadis. But President Donald J. Trump refused to stand by. On Christmas Day itself, he ordered powerful US airstrikes, precision Tomahawk missiles from a Navy warship, decimating Islamic State camps in the Sokoto state. He deliberately timed the strikes for Christmas, calling it a Christmas present to the terrorists, sending an unmistakable message. The slaughter of Christians must end now. Multiple senior ISIS commanders and fighters were allegedly eliminated, camps obliterated, and crucially, no civilian casualties. Perfect American strikes as only our, military could deliver. Trump is the only world leader with the spine and courage to act, it seems. Starmer, Macron, and the EU elites have all been silent, too busy appeasing Gaza protesters and importing chaos into our own countries to confront anything like that anywhere else abroad. But Donald Trump, he warned for months. He said, stop the killing of Christians or face America's wrath. He and his country gain nothing from this. There's no oil contracts, there's no trade favours, no pats on the back from the globalist club, is there? This is pure, selfless nobility, a fearless stand to defend persecuted Christians and halt the poisonous spread of Islamism across Africa and beyond. He could have issued more empty statements like the weak leaders before him and the weak leaders that surround us in the EU. Instead, he became the shield for the Christian faithful, the avenger against barbarism. Supporters rightly call it the ultimate Christmas gift to Christians worldwide, a resounding blow for good over evil. And Trump has that iron resolve, doesn't he, that we're all screaming out for here in Britain, unafraid to name radical Islamic terrorism, unafraid to crush it, and putting faith and civilization first. Islamism is a cancer. It spreads unless confronted and destroyed decisively. Well, I say Merry Christmas. Thank God for Donald Trump, and Merry Christmas also to those Nigerian jihadists.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Peter Blexley, former Scotland Yard detective, Lara Brown, commissioning editor at The Spectator, and Nigel Nelson, GB News' senior political commentator. Welcome, everybody. Merry Christmas. I haven't seen you all. Thank you very much. Peter, I'll start with you. I think this is absolutely glorious, what he's done. And it's very selfless to have done it. We see these interventions from America often around the world, but usually there's something to gain for them. This time there's been nothing.
There is a problem with radical Muslims and Islamist fanatics around the world. Tragically, we've seen it only too recently. Bondi Beach in Australia, synagogue in Manchester, and other examples. It is a threat to Western civilization, the values that we live by, the rules that we have, the way we get along. And therefore, it has to be tackled. It has to be tackled wherever it raises its vile and ugly head. And if the President of the United States sees fit to launch an attack in Nigeria, I, for one, am not going to criticise that.
I certainly agree. Lara, what do you make of the attack? I personally think it's welcome when America intervenes when innocent people are being slaughtered without anything to gain for itself. This is the kind of foreign policy I can actually get behind. This is the kind of interventionism I can get behind.
I have to confess, I struggle to call any airstrike that will kill people glorious or welcome.
Even terrorists?
Nigeria is an extremely unstable region. We're looking at tens of thousands of people every year killed as a result of ethnic and religious violence. There are definitely Islamic State terrorist cells that are erupting in Nigeria. But the problem with this strike is that Trump has spent around 2 years trying to get the Nigerian government to acknowledge this and take it on. And I'm nervous that by suddenly on Christmas Day striking, in a strike that probably has killed innocent people, it will have hopefully got militants as well, it's going to push the Nigerian government away from solving things. And as Tony Blair learned and we learned over the course of a decade, when you take out ISIS strongholds, you have to know what comes next. And this doesn't feel like a well-thought-through, strategised approach where once you create that vacuum and you stir up the population, we know how we then protect people.
My issue is, Nigel, that this slaughtering of Christians has been going on for a very long time. There are quite stark figures. I'll just bring them up here for you in just a second. But hundreds of thousands of Christians being killed over the last decade.
Those figures are disputed by the Nigerian government.
Well, the Africa Centre for Strategic Studies...
Those are the ones which are disputed.
Yeah, well, they say reports of 22,000 fatalities. There are claims over 7,000 Christians in Nigeria. Lots of different reports, of course, from different organisations, but they all say thousands at least. And they all say that it's predominantly aimed at Christians.
OK, let's put it into context and listen to what the Nigerians said after the attack. Nothing wrong with taking out terrorists. I'm on your side when it comes to that. But there's nothing selfless about this from President Trump's point of view. This was something that his own supporters have been pressing him to do. US Christian groups have been pushing him to do it as well. So he was actually appeasing them. That's
he hasn't
the first
got an election to win, though, Nigel. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have
no,
to.
But
he's a lame duck president.
But he likes to please his supporters. So, and the other thing there is that it's not just Christians. That again, according to the Nigerians, it's Nigerians being killed, not specific religious groups. So more Muslims have been killed by terrorists than Christians have in Nigeria.
I don't think that's true, Nigel.
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, I'm taking this from the Nigerian government who are actually there. So it's a question of...
The Nigerian government has said there was no innocent people killed. They said that actually...
What I said was that more Muslims have been killed by terrorists and also bandits. We're not just talking about terrorists, we're talking about Fulani cattle herders who are grabbing land. They've killed Christians and Muslims, so that hasn't had a religious aspect. What the Nigerians say is that there's been a gross misrepresentation about what has been going on there. And they've also said immediately after the airstrike, this is not a religious thing. It's not singling out one religion. It's down to killing Nigerians, and that's why they went along with it.
That doesn't seem to be the case from what I'm reading, though, Nigel. I I've read a lot about this story, and yes, of course, Muslims will suffer as a result of terrorism. Moderate Muslims suffer all over the world where there's terrorism.
Well, more of them.
We see that.
But more of them in this case.
But we're talking at least over the last decade, since 2009. Some of these groups here are citing as much as 100,000 people, and that they say that they do specifically.
Which is a figure. That's right. Yeah, that figure's been bandied about, along with 18,000 churches burned.
But regardless of the point, right?
That's been disputed by the Nigerian government.
But terrorists are dead.
Yes.
Terrorists are dead. Shouldn't we all be happy with that?
That's why I'm happy.
They're dead. Terrorists are dead.
I'm not against killing terrorists.
I'm happy about that.
What I'm saying is that the presentation of this is not exactly as it seems.
Well, the terrorists are dead, so that'll do for me.
This is it, right? This is it for me, Peter, right? We criticise the Americans when they go to countries, they take land, they take oil, and they take the resources of that area, and then we go, right, well, that's not the kind of interventionism we want. Donald Trump hasn't got any land out of this. He hasn't got any military bases. He hasn't got any oil contracts. He has decided to do what he thinks is morally the right thing. Whether Nigel disagrees with him or not and says it's a MAGA thing, well, Trump is the head of the Republican Party. He is, of course, going to do what his base thinks is right, but I also think Trump is quite a strong Christian from all the things he said over the last year, and he has warned these guys to stop. They committed, by all accounts here, journalists on the ground, an act of terrorism on Christmas Day against Christians, which is deeply, deeply distressing. We do hear this time and time again from the Pope even about this genocide of Christians happening in Africa. Trump's decided to do something about it, and as usual, people can't seem to find anything good to say about it. They just want to... leftists are saying online that this is Trump derangement syndrome. People are calling it Trump derangement syndrome again, as usual.
Terrorists are dead. Sorry if I'm sounding like a stuck record here. Terrorists are dead. That is a good thing. And let's remember what happened in the week before Christmas over here, when two men were convicted, fortunately, thanks to the wonderful work of an undercover operative and others, well done Farouk, that was the code name, of plotting to kill Jews in as large a numbers as they possibly could here in the UK.
Yeah.
They were sourcing weapons, they were plotting, they were planning. They're the type of people that need to be locked up. They're the type of people that here in this country wanted to create bloodshed. And we've got to remember this. These radical Muslims are a huge, huge threat around the world.
Yep.
Less so in countries like Saudi, because they won't even have them in there.
They won't.
Or they'll lock them up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Many countries, UAE, another one, they won't have
them.
And the problem I've got with this, with people who aren't sort of at least on board with this, is that we constantly say to politicians in Britain, we've had enough of the plaudits, condolences, but we're allowing these pockets of terrorism to thrive all over the world, which is going to breed more extremists. And at the moment, we have people flooding into Britain with our porous borders. How do we know that people who are being, literally radicalised by extremists in parts of Nigeria won't be making it here to Britain? At least I'd rather they were gone. As Peter said, Peter's going, right, terrorists are dead, happy days.
Well, I'd start by saying we need a good enough border that we're having to not blow up terrorists in other countries because we won't let them in here. That's not the answer. I'm not saying it's wrong. And then say, I'm obviously happy that terrorists are dead. That's a good thing. But you want your long-term, multi-decade plan to be fewer terrorists in Nigeria, less ethnic violence. You have to be very careful that your actions today aren't going to create more extremism tomorrow.
But isn't the way to do that to at least take out the leadership and the pockets of those groups now? So, I mean, the Nigerian government obviously hasn't done it. America has said, right, we're going to act because you're not doing it. And they've worked in coalition with the Nigerian government on this. The Nigerians have said, their government has said that, yes, we support these attacks and we have been working with the Americans on it. So what I don't understand what the problem is here. If their government has sanctioned it, maybe, Nigel, you can answer this. Your government has sanctioned it. The Trump administration has worked with them to eliminate a radical group. It's worked. No innocent victims have been named. The Nigerian government say no innocents were killed. Surely we should go, this is the kind of interventionism we want.
Yeah, and as far as that goes, I'm right with you. I think that and with Peter, I think that absolutely right. Take out terrorists like ISIS and Boko Haram who are absolutely evil. What I'm saying is that the reasons that Trump has given are not accurate according to the Nigerian government.
What reasons do you think he's given?
Well, what Trump has said is that he's gone in there to protect Christians. He hasn't said, I've gone in there to protect Muslims who've also been under attack, along with mosques in Nigeria. And the Nigerians talking about the fact that we're not really singling out one religious group, that Nigerians are being killed.
To protect Christians? I mean, our government and the Labour
but what about
government...
Muslims?
Well, the Labour government makes a big deal about going into protecting the Muslim majority of Gaza and Palestine. That's a Muslim-mostly country, and they've made a huge deal about going in there, providing aid and trying to stop the Israelis from attacking them. Why can't we show the same sort of resolve?
Well, there aren't many Christians in Gaza, for a start, so...
Well, no, but there's not... There's
what
lots of Christians.
Yeah, and why not? And why aren't there many Christians in Gaza?
Well, because it is a Muslim enclave. So,
because how do you think they'd get on?
Well, it's a Muslim enclave. The point about this here is that it is not just Christians who are being killed, and it's not predominantly a religious attack. It is people who are just attacking other people.
But the ends justify the means, and if every Muslim radicalised terrorist nutjob on this planet lived in fear of one of Donald Trump's missiles landing on their bonds, then me, for one, am very, very happy.
That's fine. I'm agreeing with you on that. We did have a point of disagreement about the fact that Trump went out to take out terrorist enclaves. That's fine. What I'm arguing is that the way he's presented it is not accurate.
Well, the Congressman Bill, I can't pronounce his last name, Huizenga, I think it is, a Michigan Republican, who led a delegation to Nigeria. I'm reading this here. He said that attitudes within the Nigerian government were beginning to turn in favour of protecting Christians, in addition to taking actions against those terrorising Christians and moderate Muslims. So it seems to me, at least from the Americans who've been on this delegation's account, that this is actually something that they're warmed up to. Even the Nigerian government has said, actually, do you know what, we do need to start taking out these radical groups, but they don't seem to have the powers to do it. And unfortunately, I feel when you look at the state of the West today, we have allowed so much radicalism to thrive. We withdrew from the Middle East, didn't we? Quite heavily we withdrew from the Middle East, and then we've allowed been allowed to thrive. And instead of that, a power vacuum, has been Islamic State, Boko Haram, and those sorts of places, Lara.
Well, this is the difficulty with tackling Islamic extremism, Islamic terrorism. Actions like airstrikes might be good. I would like to see terrorists dead. But you have to be very, very careful that you don't create vacuums where somebody steps up. And the problem with this sort of terrorism is it doesn't really operate on the basis of fear. You have people who are so misniacally operating in favour of their beliefs that they're not very nervous about being killed by airstrikes. So what Trump needs to do now is work with the Nigerian government to have them accept that you have a lot of pockets of extremism, a lot of pockets operating as the Islamic State, and to constantly manage them and deal with them and make sure the Nigerian government acknowledges this. They've been very, very reluctant to talk about it for the last few years.
Not constantly manage them, constantly bomb them and kill them.
Well,
that's what we need to do to pockets of terrorists.
I would like to see terrorists dead across the world, but you don't want to be in a situation where you're having to constantly bomb Nigeria. That is not a good outcome.
But what you need is a strong deterrence to say we are not going to tolerate this kind of extremism where you go and slaughter innocent people. And it's being done by, it's not being done by Christian radicals, Nigel. It's being done by Muslim radical groups in Africa.
Who are killing other Muslims.
I'm not saying they're not, but Trump has decided...
Either way, bomb them.
Trump has decided this is a 50% Muslim country, basically 50% Christian country.
That's right,
and actually he believes, and his people believe, that the Christians are being the ones who are being the most targeted.
OK, well...
That's his belief.
That's his belief, but not what the Nigerians say on the ground.
But either way, by killing the terrorists, you save the moderate Muslims too.
Yes, I agree with that. That's why we have no problem about the fact that...
So you're just upset about the rhetoric?
What I'm saying is that Trump is not being honest about it. If he was honest about it and said, hey, we went in there, as Peter says, we went in there, we wanted to remove the terrorists from Nigeria, and we've succeeded, or at least we've actually removed some of them. If he'd said that, that's absolutely fine. What I'm saying is it's not about just protecting Christians, which is the impression Trump gives.
Sure, I just don't see what the problem with that is, if that's what the American government wishes to do. And it says it actually thinks it's protecting mostly Christian areas. I think that's also OK. I don't think we should be caught up on the rhetoric if the outcome is a positive one. That's all I'm saying. I think it's very good, and I do think actually Christians are being targeted all over the world. They've been targeted in Syria, they've been targeted in Gaza, they've been targeted in Africa, and I think we need some people to do something about it, because otherwise, when do we ever do anything? And I think persecution is persecution. That's all I would say.